Christmas dinner was supposed to be warm, joyful, a time for family. Instead, it became the reckoning. The moment years of manipulation, entitlement, and outright betrayal came crashing down. And for once, I was the one holding all the cards. It started innocently enough. The table was set, laughter filled the room, and for the first time in a long time, I felt relaxed. Until my mother, in that fake sweet voice she always used when she was about to ask me for something, said, "So we were thinking." My gut tightened. Nothing good ever followed those words. My parents exchanged a glance before she continued. "Since you got that big bonus this year, we figured it would be really helpful if you gave it to Logan. He's been struggling so much lately." I blinked. I genuinely thought she was joking. And then I saw it. Logan's smug little smirk, the expectation in my father's eyes, my mother's carefully curated expression of helplessness. They weren't asking. They were expecting, like they always did. That's when I smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "That's funny because I have a surprise for you, too." Their faces brightened for a second, probably thinking I was about to announce something generous. Instead, I reached under the table, pulled out my laptop, and opened a folder labeled Receipts. Silence. My mom's smile froze. My dad's face paled. Logan, who had been leaning back like he owned the world, suddenly sat up straighter. I turned the screen toward them, scrolling through every bank transfer I had ever sent them, every loan that was never repaid, every emergency bill they had guilted me into covering because Logan needed help. I watched their eyes dart across the numbers, the sheer amount making my mom's hand tremble as she reached for her wine glass. My dad clenched his jaw so tight I thought he might break his teeth. And Logan? He looked like a rat trapped in a cage, already scanning for an escape. I let the silence stretch, let them feel the weight of it. Then I tapped the screen. "This," I said, voice smooth as silk, "is just the beginning." I clicked the next file, Logan's credit card statements. My mom gasped. There, in black and white, were thousands spent at bars, sneaker stores, and five-star resorts. "You were never struggling," I said coldly. "You were partying." I pulled up screenshots of Logan's Instagram, bottle service at clubs, trips to Dubai, a gaming setup that cost more than my rent. My mom turned to him, voice shaking. "Is this true?" Logan scoffed. "It's not that serious." I laughed, a real bitter laugh. "Oh, but it is." My dad finally found his voice. What else could there possibly be? I clicked the final file, the one that really mattered. "This," I said, turning the screen back to them, "is the record of the mortgage payments I made. On this house. The one you told me was paid off." The color drained from my mom's face. My dad's breathing slowed, his hand gripping the table like he might flip it over. "Yeah, that's right. I found out." I leaned forward. "You came to me crying, saying you were about to lose the house, begging me for help. And like an idiot, I paid and paid and paid." I let the words sink in before delivering the final blow. Then I did some digging, and guess what I found? The house was never in danger. The money? Gone. Straight to Logan. My dad inhaled sharply. My mom's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Logan's entire face twisted in rage. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." "Nothing?" My patience snapped. "You stole from me. You lied to me. You manipulated me for years. And you thought I'd just hand over my bonus?" Logan jumped up, slamming his fist on the table. "You think you're so much better than me just because you have some stupid job?" I tilted my head. "Yeah, actually, I do." Logan's face went red. My father stood, his voice low and dangerous. "Sit down." Logan hesitated but obeyed. That's when my mother reached for me. voice soft, pleading. Sweetheart, you don't understand. I ripped my arm away. No, you don't understand. I have proof. Every single thing you've done. And now, I leaned in, my voice like ice. You're going to pay me back. They all froze. That wasn't the reaction they expected. For once, I had the power. My mom's face crumpled, but I wasn't falling for her fake tears. My dad looked like he was scrambling to figure out how to twist this in his favor. Logan? His fists were clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. You want us to pay you back? My dad finally said, voice tight. I nodded. That's right. He let out a dry chuckle. And what if we don't? I smiled. I had been waiting for him to ask that. I clicked on another file, turned the laptop back around and slid it toward them. Then I send this to the IRS. My mom choked. My dad stiffened. Logan froze. What the hell does that mean? Logan stammered. I tapped the screen. It means our dear parents have been committing tax fraud for years. My dad's face turned to stone. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Logan looked between them, confusion and panic creeping in. Wait, what? I nodded. Yeah, you weren't as broke as they made it seem. They covered for you by committing fraud, fake deductions, false income reports. And oh, look at this, filing you as a dependent while you were making cash under the table. Logan's head snapped toward them. You did what? For the first time in my life, I saw something new in my father's eyes. Fear. You don't want to do this, he said quietly. I tilted my head. Why not? Because we're family. I let out a humorless laugh. Family. Family wouldn't have stolen from me, lied to me. Let me struggle while they threw money at someone who refused to grow up. Logan stood up, snarling. You act like you're untouchable, but guess what? You're replaceable. And once that complaint goes through, you're gone. Something shifted inside me. I smiled. You really think you're the only one who planned ahead? Logan's face twisted as he sucked in a sharp breath. How the hell did you... I cut him off, my voice smooth, almost amused. You're not as smart as you think you are. He had no idea I had access to his statements. No clue that every time my parents sobbed to me about his so-called struggles, I had been quietly watching him blow money like a damn lottery winner. I tapped my laptop, and the screen shifted. His credit card history, his vacations, his late-night club tabs, his flexing on social media with designer clothes, bottle service, luxury hotels, New Orleans, Dubai, Los Angeles, even a gaming setup that cost more than my rent. My mother turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. Logan, is this true? He scoffed, rolling his eyes. It's not that serious. I laughed, a real cold, bitter laugh. Oh, but it is. And then I clicked to the next file. My father finally spoke, his voice strained. What else could there possibly be? I turned the screen to face them, my voice steady, deliberate. This is the record of the mortgage payments I made. On this house, the one you told me was already paid off. My mother's face went white. My dad's fingers flexed against the table like he might flip it over. Logan shifted in his chair, suddenly way too interested in his empty plate. Yeah, I thought. That's what I thought. I leaned forward, my voice softer now, almost gentle. See, about a year ago, you both came to me, crying, saying you were about to lose the house. You begged me for help, said you just needed a little to get back on your feet. And like an idiot, I believed you. I paid, and paid, and paid. I let that sit for a second, watching the shame crawl up my mother's face, the rage simmer in my father's eyes. Then I delivered the final blow. Then I got curious, The tension snapped in the air. I could practically hear the blood draining from their faces. So I did some digging, and guess what? The house was never in danger. The mortgage was fine. The money? I tilted my head, enjoying the way my father's grip tightened on the table. Straight to Logan. My mom made a strangled sound. My dad sucked in a slow, deep breath. And Logan, oh, Logan, his whole face darkened with rage. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," he spat. That's when my patience snapped. "Nothing?" I repeated, my voice like ice. "You stole from me, lied to me, manipulated me for years, and you thought I'd just hand over my bonus." Logan shot up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" I didn't even flinch. "Yeah, actually, I do." My dad slammed his hand on the table. "Sit down." Logan hesitated, but for once in his life, he obeyed. That's when my mother reached for me, her voice soft, pleading. "Sweetheart, you don't understand." I yanked my arm away. "No, you don't understand." I pointed to the laptop. "I have proof. Every single thing you've done. And now?" I leaned in, lowering my voice to a whisper. "You're going to pay me back." Their faces dropped. Yeah, they weren't expecting that. For once, I had the power. My mom's face crumpled, but I wasn't falling for the fake tears this time. My dad was already calculating, trying to figure out how to twist this in his favor. "Logan?" His fists were clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. "You want us to pay you back?" my dad finally asked, his voice dangerously low. I nodded. "That's right." He let out a dry chuckle, shaking his head. "And what if we don't?" I smiled. Oh, I had been waiting for him to ask that. I clicked to another file, turned the laptop back around, and slid it toward them. "Then I send this to the FBI." My mother choked. My father stiffened. Logan froze. "The FBI?" Logan echoed, his voice sharp. "What the hell does that mean?" I tapped the screen, my expression unreadable. "It means our dear parents have been committing tax fraud for the last 5 years. My dad's face turned to stone. My mom covered her mouth like she might actually throw up. Logan looked between them, panic creeping in. "Wait. What?" I nodded, enjoying the fear settling into his bones. "You weren't struggling. You were hiding money, and they covered for you. Fake deductions, false income reports, and oh, look at this. Filing you as a dependent while you were making cash under the table." Logan's head whipped toward them. "You did what?" For the first time in my life, I saw something new in my father's eyes. Fear. "You don't want to do this," he said quietly. I tilted my head. "Why not?" "Because we're family." I let out a humorless laugh. "Family? Family wouldn't have stolen from me, lied to me. Let me struggle while they threw money at someone who refuses to grow up." Logan shot up again, snarling. "You act like you're untouchable, but guess what? You're replaceable. And once that complaint goes through, you're gone." Something shifted inside me. I smiled. A slow, eerie calm settled over me as I stared at Logan's phone. An email from my company's HR department. An official complaint against me. Financial misconduct. Misuse of company funds. A setup. A goddamn setup. My pulse pounded, but I didn't let it show. I refused to let them see me break. I turned to my parents, searching for even the smallest flicker of denial. Nothing. My dad refused to meet my eyes, and my mom dabbed at her fake tears like she hadn't just conspired to ruin me. They knew. They had helped him. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was war. Logan leaned back, arms crossed, smirking like he had already won. "See, you weren't the only one planning ahead." I inhaled slowly, forcing my voice to stay level. How long have you been planning this? His grin widened. Does it matter? You thought you were the only one playing the game? Guess what? You lost. I tilted my head, studying him. Lost? Oh, Logan. He really had no idea who he was dealing with. I let out a low, disbelieving laugh. You really hate me that much? My mom gasped, clutching her chest like I had just accused her of a crime. Sweetheart, no, we had to protect him. He's not as strong as you are. He wouldn't survive without us. I nodded slowly. You mean, without me? Logan scoffed. Oh, get over yourself. You act like you're so special just because you work some boring office job. That was it. That was the moment something in me snapped. I exhaled sharply, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. That boring office job is the only reason you're not living out of your damn car right now. You absolute waste of space. Logan rolled his eyes. You really think you're untouchable, don't you? That company loves me. You're replaceable. And once that complaint goes through, you're done. I stared at him for a moment, my mind working faster than it ever had before. And then I smiled, a slow, knowing smile that made his smirk falter just slightly. You really think you're the only one who planned ahead? For years, I'd let them take from me. Money, time, love, every ounce of energy I had. They had turned me into their personal bank, their backup plan, their safety net, and I let them. I let them because I thought that's what family was. But tonight, that illusion shattered. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms as Logan glared at me, clutching his phone like a lifeline. You want to play dirty? I said, my voice deadly calm. Fine, let's play. Logan opened his mouth, probably to throw out some cocky remark, but I cut him off. You didn't send that complaint yet, did you? His smirk flickered. What? I nodded toward his screen. It's still in draft mode. His face twisted as he quickly swiped his phone back. So what? I'll send it right now. Go ahead. I tilted my head, watching as his fingers hovered over the screen. Hesitation. Doubt. And that's when I laughed, a slow, bitter laugh that sent chills down the room. You're bluffing, he spat. No, I said, my smirk widening. You are. His jaw clenched. You think HR takes anonymous complaints at face value? I leaned in, lowering my voice. You think they wouldn't investigate? You think they wouldn't trace it back to you? His confidence wavered just slightly. Even if they investigate, it'll ruin your reputation, he muttered. Maybe, I shrugged. But guess what? I have an actual lawyer. And you know what's illegal, Logan? Filing a false report, defamation, corporate fraud, silence. I turned to my father, whose jaw was so tight I swore I heard his teeth grinding. And let's not forget your situation. I tapped my laptop. One email to the IRS. And you're looking at an audit, fines, maybe even jail time. My mom gasped. You wouldn't. I gave her a slow, knowing smile. Why not? You were ready to let Logan ruin my career. Why should I protect you? Logan slammed his fists on the table. You're just bluffing. I shrugged. Try me. Silence. For once, they were the ones panicking. I stood up, packing my laptop at an agonizingly slow pace. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop this pathetic little plan. You're going to stop asking me for money, and you're going to pay me back. Every cent. My dad scoffed. And if we don't? I slung my bag over my shoulder and turned to the door. Then I burn it all down. I'd barely taken 2 steps before my mom let out a raw, broken sob. You can't just walk away from us. I turned, staring at her. My dad sat stone-faced, his pride keeping him from begging. But my mom? She knew. She knew I was really leaving this time. She scrambled forward, reaching for me, her voice desperate. We're family. We're all we have. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. Number I was all you had. Then I turned to Logan, meeting his eyes one last time. And you're nothing to me now. For the first time, his cocky expression faltered. Maybe he finally understood. Maybe he knew he had pushed too far. I didn't care. I walked to the door. I stepped outside into the cold November air, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. A month later, I got a notification. One of the payments I demanded had gone through. No apology, no message, just the money. I didn't respond. I focused on myself, my future, my peace. And them? Well, I heard from a cousin that the FBI did, in fact, come knocking. I never sent the email, but someone else must have. Funny how karma works. The moment I stepped into my mother-in-law's grand yet eerily cold living room, I knew something was off. Tyler's entire family sat in stiff formation, their expressions grim, their presence deliberate, like a jury ready to pass judgment. At the center of the coffee table sat a neatly stacked folder, a silent threat. His mother motioned toward an empty chair. "Sit down," she said coolly. I didn't move. My arms crossed, my pulse steady, I asked, "What's going on?" Tyler's father, Charles, picked up the folder and slid it toward me. "We need you to sign these," he said, with the authority of a man used to being obeyed. I stepped forward, my stomach tightening as I read the first page. Divorce papers. My laugh came out sharper than I expected. "Are you serious?" His mother straightened her pearls, exhaling as if this was all so beneath her. "This is what's best for everyone," she said. "You've never fit into this family. You don't uphold our values, and frankly, you've been a distraction to Tyler's future." Rachel smirked, arms folded as if she had personally orchestrated this ambush. You had to see this coming. The arrogance in the room was suffocating. They weren't offering me a choice. They were dictating my exit, assuming I'd comply like some discarded inconvenience. My fingers skimmed the divorce papers before I looked up, unimpressed. "Where's Tyler?" His father's jaw tightened. "He's not here. He doesn't know yet." My stomach turned, but my voice remained steady. "So you decided to blindside me first, drafted all this without his knowledge, expecting me to just sign and disappear?" His mother's lips curled into a tight smile. "It's for the best." That's when I smirked. Reaching into my bag, I pulled out a folder of my own and dropped it onto the table with a deliberate thud. "Actually," I said, tilting my head, "I have a surprise for you, too." The room went still. Every smug face turned wary. Charles hesitated before snatching up the folder, his fingers trembling as he flipped through the pages. His face reddened with each word, each undeniable piece of evidence. His mother went rigid, her carefully curated composure cracking. Rachel's confidence drained in an instant as she grabbed a page, eyes widening in panic. "How did you?" she stammered. I checked my watch, then met her gaze with a satisfied smile. "I've known for a while. I was just waiting for the perfect moment. And this was it." Rachel's voice wavered as she snatched a page from the folder, her eyes darting over the words like she could somehow will them into saying something different. "How did you?" she stammered. I didn't rush my response. I wanted her to feel every second of this unraveling. "I've known for a while," I said smoothly, glancing at my watch. "I was just waiting for the perfect moment. And guess what? That moment is now." Across the room, Tyler's father, Charles, went rigid, his face darkening with rage. This is fake. There's no way you..." He trailed off, his voice faltering. I tilted my head, letting the weight of his panic settle in. "Oh, but I did," I said, my voice light. And the fact that you recognize what's in those papers tells me everything I need to know. Otherwise, why would you be so scared? Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Tyler's uncle, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, reached for a page. He read, then looked up, his face pale. Charles. Is this true? Charles clenched his jaw so tight it looked like his teeth might crack. His wife, normally so composed, set the papers down with trembling hands, her gaze darting to me with something bordering on fear. You have no idea what you've done, she whispered. I smiled, slow and deliberate. Oh, I think I do. The air felt electric, charged with the slow collapse of their carefully constructed lies. Rachel's smirk had vanished, her fingers curled into fists. Tyler's mother looked like she'd swallowed something bitter. And his father, he was shaking, barely holding himself together. But they weren't the ones I was waiting for. Right on cue, the front door swung open. Tyler stepped inside, his expression puzzled. Mom said there was some kind of... He stopped abruptly, his eyes landing on the divorce papers, then on the documents I'd just thrown down. Confusion turned to alarm. What the hell is going on? His mother shot up from her seat. Tyler, sweetheart, sit down. We can explain. I cut her off before she could take control of the conversation. No, Tyler, you should sit down. You need to hear this. I turned to him, my gaze steady. Your family tried to ambush me into signing divorce papers behind your back, I said, watching as the words registered. But they didn't expect me to have my own paperwork. His brow furrowed. What? I stepped closer, tapping the folder on the table. That's everything I've found over the past few months. Bank records, emails, hidden transactions. You might want to take a look.